Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Pratasmarami. Hrdi samspurat atma tattvam. Sat Chit Sukham. Paramahamsa Gatim Turiyam. Yat Sopna Jagara Sushupti Mavidi Nityam. Tadbrahma Nishkalam Aham Najabhuta Sangaha. Brahmanandam Paramasugatam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshibhudam Bhavaditam Gunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namah. Everybody will be happy to hear these words. Time and again we have been reminded by Mahatmas that married life need not be considered as an obstacle to God realization. Every creation, whether it lives within a family circle or otherwise, lives, moves and has its being in God alone. God is equally in everyone and in everything. According to Manusmriti, Grihasta discharges the responsibility of educating and feeding the other three ashramas, namely Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Grihastha ashrama is therefore considered a preeminent ashrama. Grihasthas give birth to saints, scientists, experts in all fields who contribute to the growth, development and welfare of the society. It is for this reason that this ashrama is given so much of importance. Our great country, India, has given birth to numerous Bhaktotamas who have led family lives and at the same time have had unswerving commitment towards leading devout, noble lives. Difficulties and trials of life are as much the lot of a sannyasin as of a householder. Hence, for a blissful and contented life, what we need is a strong conviction and a persevering effort to withstand the attacks of the senses. A householder's life offers better opportunities for devotional practices than that of a bachelor, whose distracted mind leads him sometimes into wild and unregulated ways of life. It is for this reason that Pujya Mataji Krishnabai always said that leading a householder's life is like fighting a battle from within a fortress, whereas leading a life of a renunciate is like fighting a battle out in the open. A true Grihastha life of Grihastha ashrama or the householder's life is an important stage in the path of mukti or salvation. As long as God keeps one in the ashrama, one must consider oneself only as his servant, appointed in that place to serve him as he is manifest in all those with whom his lot is cast. This is very important. A Grihastha has to put down gradually his selfish desires, widen his sphere of love by doing selfless service to others. He must be kind and hospitable to all poor and distressed persons who go to him for succor and sympathy. He must practice self-control and self-sacrifice and also call upon others who are with him to do the same. A true Grihastha is he who maintains a house not for his own selfish enjoyments, but for the service of the Lord in the forms of poor, the deceased, the miserable. Love, service and humility must be the guiding mottos of his life. He must subdue lust, greed, anger, hatred. He must be ever patient, cheerful, forgiving. He must practice self-discipline, master his passions. Like the other ashramas like Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, Grihastha ashrama too is a field for sadhana where one develops the virtues which lead one to the goal of spiritual perfection. What is the key that easily unlocks for the Grihastha the door that opens to an ideal life of purity and strength, of cheerfulness and love, of peace and freedom? It is the ceaseless chanting of Ram Nam, an unbroken remembrance of God, the infinite master and mother of the universe. He is all goodness, all love, all strength, all purity, all peace, all bliss, and all wisdom. Cultivation of a strong and firm bhakti, or love for God, helps the sadhaka to bring all disturbing thoughts and desires of the mind under control and attain supreme joy and tranquility, which can never be upset or marred by anything. So what is the key that easily unlocks for the Grihasta, the door that opens to an ideal life of purity and strength, of cheerfulness and love, of peace and freedom? It is the ceaseless chanting of Ram Nam, an unbroken remembrance of God. Who is the infinite master and mother of the universe. God is all goodness, all love, all strength, all peace, all purity, all bliss, and all wisdom. Cultivation of a strong and firm bhakti, or love for God, helps the sadhaka to bring all disturbing thoughts and desires of the mind under control and attain sublime joy and tranquility, which can never be upset or marred by anything. Devotee, what is the goal of life? How to attain it? What are the sadhanas best suited to a grihastha? Different people in the world have set before them different goals. Some want a high position in life, some want wealth, some want children, some want vast property, while some others want objects of the senses for enjoyment. These are the various objectives people cherish and strive for. But which is the goal that we must have before us? Worldly possessions, we know from experience, do not bring us real and lasting happiness. Real happiness can be ours only by attaining God, by realizing God. God stands for immortal happiness and peace. Without Him, happiness is far away from us. Therefore, when we are young, we were told by our parents to go to temples or to places where there were saints and sages, or to parties where bhajans were sung, so that we could turn our mind from childhood itself to the source of immortal joy, God. So our true goal should be God and God alone. God realization does not mean that we are to become something that we are not. We are only to become what we really are. We are in truth the self or Atman, which is divine. By thinking of God constantly, we can realize our oneness with Him. What do we generally think ourselves to be? We think we are the body and nothing more. We think only of sense objects because our mind dwells upon the body. When the body is affected by disease, we feel we are sick. When death comes to the body, we take it that we die. What a deplorable condition, when in truth we are the immortal spirit, deathless, changeless. This is our true nature, which can be realized only by continuous thought of God. When we take Ram Nam, we commune with our real being, the eternal truth. Ram is not different from us, from our real self. He is seated within ourselves. When we repeat His name with all love and faith, He manifests Himself within us in all His splendor and enables us to merge our little self into His all-pervading being. Therefore it is said that external worship should end in internal worship. External worship is a means to realize the divine within us, but we cannot at once go within to find Him. It is difficult for us. So we begin with external worship, do puja to an image or a picture of God, and thus awaken Him in our heart. External aid is necessary before we can see Him within us. Ultimately, we have to see that our inner self and the all-pervading self are one and the same. Devotee, what is the ideal Grihastha life that will lead to the final goal? Papa, before the advent of Sri Krishna, there were in vogue 4 stages for the realization of God: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and last of all, Sannyasa. Only after passing through the first three stages was a man deemed fit to attain liberation by renouncing the worldly life altogether. Of course, even during the Vanaprastha stage, he goes to the forest, but he is not completely detached from the worldly life. Ultimately, he breaks all his ties, binding him to worldly relations and possessions, and then reaches the final state of absolute renunciation called sannyas. What about those who cannot renounce and who are made to live in the world till the last? For them, Lord Krishna has established what is called the Bhagavata Dharma. This is a path of perfect dedication and surrender to the will and power of the divine. To attain this stage, he has pointed out the path of bhakti as the means. The ideal Grihasta life, consisting in living according to this Bhagavata Dharma of self-dedication, of complete surrender to the will of God. The life of great Maharashtrian saint Ekanath Maharaj was an ideal one of a householder according to the Bhagavata Dharma. He said in one of his teachings that the life of a Grihasta must be entirely dedicated to God. Dedication does not mean renunciation. As regards the so-called responsibility of looking after his family, he must feel that he is doing everything as an agent of God. Sri Ramakrishna said, give the power of attorney to God and live in the world, feeling that you are merely a servant obeying his commands, that everything belongs to him. Serve people in the house in his name, and then it is that we live the true Grihastha's life. The functions or duties of a Grihastha are described in the Upanishads as follows. First of all, you must treat your parents as the very forms of God. Whenever atithis, guests come to you, you must treat them with love and respect, looking upon them as God himself. You must consider your Guru as God and worship him. So Grihasthas must serve sadhus and saints with all reverence, and whatever service they do must be done in all humility, love and devotion. Living the Grihastha life with this attitude will lead to continuous remembrance of God and the ultimate realization of Him. What is needed is constant remembrance. So while chanting Ram Nam, if this is there in our mind, it will help us a lot. You chose to put me in this particular life. You have provided, you have facilitated everything for me. But when I deal with men and matters, I forget. Only I am there, you are not there. And because of that, I carry all my so-called tension, stress, planning. And I am always, stress I'm passing through because of uncertainty, because of anxiety, because of expectation of food. All these things are there. Papa here clearly mentions Ram should enable us to give an assurance that the great provider, he is within us, whose name we are chanting, and who is ultimately making us to chant his name. Because of his love for us, though he has given us the freedom to think that we are individuals, he has also given us the option to know that he is there behind the sense of individuality, to function as an individuality. So while chanting, all these thoughts should be there in the background. Otherwise, it is likely to be a surface level activity, not helping us really to know ourselves. It has got its own positive aspects, but still it would be better if we chant with the feeling that he is within us and he is making us to chant. And chanting can be done mentally. Papa advocates that mental chanting will help us more effectively than vocal chanting. Mental chanting enables us to relieve us from all our outgoing thoughts. Finally gets fixed on one particular thought, Ramna. Finally, witness consciousness emerges, where the chanting is being heard, chanting is being realized, chanting is being known. At that time, he gives us a glimpse of his presence in the form of silence, in the form of awareness, calm, gentleness. Oh, Shiva.